right, as you know, yesterday we had Casey Costello from New Zealand First and Andrew Bailey from National contesting the Waikato by-election. Is it at the 24th or 25th? And it looks like a walkover, a cakewalk for Nacional. Labor not standing. I don't think the Greens are bothering. ACT not standing because obviously some sensitivity towards the death of their general election candidate, Neil Christensen, who of course we had on the program. But an election, a by-election, is a chance to advance your ideas, even if you're not going to win. You campaign, you get your ideas out in front of people. And one of the parties that we have met recently, and we talk to often, is the Women's Rights Party. And the Secretary of the Women's Rights Party, Jill Ovens, joins us now. Jill, how are you?
Oh, good, thanks.
Hey, how many votes did you get at the election, the party?
2,513.
That's more than you had before you formed the party.
Well, that's right. Given that we were only registered 6 weeks before, but we weren't too disappointed.
Not much runway. Could I ask you then, you are standing in the by-election. In fact, are you the candidate?
Yeah, I live in Port Waikato. So
how long have you lived there?
About 6 years.
All right, so you're not quite a carpetbagger then. You could almost be considered local.
No, I stood for the local board last time in the Waiuku subdivision.
Yeah.
All
right. Jill, it is a pretty, a lay-down misere for National, isn't it?
Oh, yes, they had 20,000 party votes, which was 11,000 ahead of Labor. The Greens are just not a factor here in Port Waikato, and so they're not standing.
Do you have no hippies?
Well, there might be a few around the place, but they don't get very many votes out here. So they're not standing, and nor is Labor. But it's been interesting. Apart from, getting flyers out and talking to people and the markets and door knocking and stuff like that, we actually have been invited to a couple of public meetings, which didn't happen during the general election. And so we got to see something of some of the other parties, particularly New Zealand Loyal, which turns up to these public meetings.
The cookers.
From all over Auckland.
Yeah. But they're crazy. I mean, that Liz Gunn, she's certifiable.
Yeah, she was actually at the last meeting that we had. Have you heard Naomi Klein's description of bonkers in a blender? I won't say any more.
Apparently she's got some revelation about hundreds of thousands of murders by the government or something this week.
Well, one of the things that was... You were just saying before about Casey Costello as potentially leader of New Zealand First, but it was interesting because some of the New Zealand Loyal people asked her if she would stand as the leader of New Zealand First because they said they used to be New Zealand First and they don't trust Winston. And so that was quite interesting.
Yeah, as I said, I think Winston will have to depart this mortal coil before anyone else
that's right.
Leads New Zealand First. Jill, I wondered with the Women's Rights Party, and you are, of course, and people who know your background, you are a former unionist, senior unionist, and clearly Labour Party supporter. And you left, I think it would be fair to summarise, so you can correct me if I'm wrong, that you became disillusioned with Labor because of identitarian politics.
That's right. So, it wasn't just the Posey Parker thing.
Yeah.
I mean, last year we tried to put forward an amendment from the Labor women in Auckland to restrict gender reassignment surgery to over 18s, and that wasn't even allowed to go to the conference floor for debate.
Yeah. Do you think, and I wondered post-election when Labor lost, if you would see the job having been done and rejoin the fold of a Labour Party that was going to shed all the silliness of cancel culture and everything else, but you haven't. Do you think Labor learnt its lesson from what you've seen on polling day or not?
Well, what's interesting is that David Talbot of Talbot Mills, who put out that poll, you had an interview with Suzanne Levy from Speak Up for Women about that poll, and the two most opposed issues in New Zealand are men and women's sport and men and women's spaces. Yeah. Well, David Talbot is one of the leading, when I was on the Labour Party Council, he was the one that gave us all the advice about the polling about the direction that Labor was heading, about the strategy for the elections. So he's very much a Labor person. So if they can't take notice of the Talbot Mills poll, then I don't know what else will get through.
So you're not thinking of going back to the fold now that it's had a clean out and it's seen the error of its ways, because you don't think it has?
Well, I wouldn't know, but I don't think they'd have me, quite frankly.
Well, Jill, the thing is, if they were to truly reform, they would welcome you back, because they would get back to basics and being what they once were. I would say having someone like you back in the fold would be an indication that Labor has learnt its lesson and truly changed.
It wouldn't be the first time that I had a view that was an outlier that turned out to be the one that the majority supported. And in this case, it's clear that the majority of New Zealanders do think that transgenderism is a fad, basically.
Yeah.
And shouldn't be allowed to put women's rights at risk.
Yeah. Well, one hopes that silliness. If Chris Luxon can be given a spine and a backbone and get away from his ESG scorecard, one hopes that will change. What do you think of what looks likely to be this three-way coalition government?
Well, I don't think that they're taking any longer than some of the other coalitions have to form. I'd like to know how long it took in 2017. Remember when Winston was negotiating with both Labor and National and then came out? How long did that take?
The reason this has taken longer is because it took a long time to get the votes in. If you took away the extension to the vote counting time, we're still well within the comfort zone, if you like, Jill.